Coming up on today's Locked On Senators. It's an off day for the Sens in Sweden. They're taking part in some team bonding activities. So we're taking this opportunity to go over the Senators prospect pool.
And it's time to do a recap of how the Belleville Senators are doing down in the AHL.
All that and more on today's edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I'm Jake Sanderson, and you're listening to Locked On Senators podcast.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Welcome inside episode 916 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Alongside Brandon Pillar up in the Blue Mountains. You can follow the show on social media. We're at Sens Central on Twitter, LockedOn.Senators on Instagram. The show is free and available on all podcast platforms, including on YouTube, where a like, a subscription, and a comment go a long way to helping the show grow. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers in the U.S. get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started today. Today is Tuesday, November 14th, and Pilsy, which Senators prospect got you most excited as you were doing your list, checking it twice this morning?
I mean, Ross, we are a hashtag goalie friendly show, and I'm going to speak alongside the majority of the people that responded to our tweet at Sens Central on Twitter. And Levi Merilainen has got to be the most exciting prospect for the Ottawa Senators right now. We're talking about a third-round pick goalie that no one had any clue anything about when he was drafted. He was kind of a mythical creature, if you will, and he's done nothing but play very, very good over here in North America, particularly in the AHL, as he has a sparkling record. And obviously, the Belleville Senators and Ottawa felt comfortable enough having him be the number one guy for a little bit while Mads Søgaard goes over to Sweden with the Sens.
Mads Søgaard just won the AHL Goaltender of the Month, and you're telling me he's not even the most exciting goalie prospect in the organization?
Yeah, I mean, look, don't get me wrong. Obviously, what Mads Søgaard's been doing has been very incredible, but for Levi Merilainen to come over and post the numbers that he has, Ross, has been spectacular. It's honestly the play of Mads Søgaard and Levi Merilainen is what's keeping the Belleville Senators afloat here, because this is a team, unfortunately, that has been struggling to score goals, but they're doing a great job keeping goals out of the net, especially when either Levy or Mads play. I'm just pulling up Levy's stats here. So this season, 3 games, 1.92 save percentage, and a .941 goals, or other way around. Yeah, goals against was first. This is save percentage. And he's got a 2-0-1 record. And then when you combine that with last year, Ross, he was perfect, 3-0 in Belleville last season. So this guy is just having a very seamless transition heading over to the AHL.
Meanwhile, Mads Søgaard's got a .923 save percentage. So as a team, you're looking at a situation where let's get these guys some goal support, please. And that way we can get a few extra wins, because right now the Belleville Senators 6-4-1 on the season, good for 5th place in the North Division. And we know that the way that the divisional structure is set up, every team gets points every night. There's these overtime games. It really can be a grind midway through the season. And we've seen Belleville really struggle to make solidify their spot early. So they just have to keep on grinding. And, you sneak in. They don't even get a win in the playoffs that year. And they need to galvanize that community and get them a product on the ice that consistently can drive, more fans to get in the stands and watch a winning product. So the Tendies are doing their part. I'm right with you, man. Levy's been a revelation. If you add the 4 games he played at the end of last season in the AHL, in 7 AHL games, he's got a .937 save percentage. So he's just kicking them out left and right. And the only problem, Pills, is there's only one net. So going forward, how would you alternate these two guys? What's a perfect split for you?
Well, I mean, just in the upcoming week, Ross, they play up against the Laval Rocket and the Manitoba Moose, both teams that are under 500 and near the bottom of their division. Laval is at the bottom of the North Division. And with Mads over in Sweden, I'd like to see Merilainen get the game up against Laval. You got to beat those divisional opponents, especially a rival like Laval. So let's get the top goalie, at least the hot goalie, I should say, up against them. And then look, Mando, it's been tough for him. Not a good first showing in his first game in Belleville. He gets yanked, and then he's spent most of his time in the ECHL. But I'd like to see him get a game up against the Manitoba Moose with Sogard not here, just to kind of get his confidence back. And then once Sogard is back, you can send Mando back to the Allen Americans in the ECHL so he can kind of command the crease there.
Our guys were the only reason we got offense in Belleville on Sunday. 2-1 win in overtime. Igor Sokolov gets the only goal in regulation. Angus Crookshank scores the overtime winner. But as a whole, what do you think is holding this Belleville Sens team back from scoring? Because we're 11 games in, and their top scorers, Igor, Angus, and Garrett Pilon, or Pilsy, as he was.
I think it's Pilesy.
I was laughing so hard at that tweet.
Yeah.
They have 3 goals. That's the team leaders right now through 11 games. And to put that in perspective, look at Ottawa through, 13 games, but they've got multiple guys with 5 or more goals.
Yeah, I think, Ross, a big part of it, and this is where it's so tough. I have a lot of respect for AHL coaches because a lot of the times things are out of their hands. And our guy, David Bell, he's been on the show multiple times, absolute beauty. He probably thought he was going to have more stability and consistency in the first, 12 games of the season here. How many games have they played? 11 games of the season. But Ross, you look at it, and Roby Yarventi, not there. Matthew Highmore, not there. Zach McEwen, although he was only there for a bit, he scored 2 goals in 1 game. That's a guy you'd want on your AHL roster. Also not there. And then Jacob Bernard-Docker. I'm sure he maybe thought he was going to have more of Jacob Bernard-Docker on this team as well. So there's a lot of players that have had to be elevated from AHL going up to Ottawa due to injury concerns so early in the season. I'm sure that's a bit of the reason, Ross, why those are top tier guys in Belleville, and they were expected to play a big role here, especially a guy like Roby Yarventi and JBD. So I think that might be a bit of a reason why maybe they're struggling so far.
Well, what's good to see is Maxence Gannett continue his strong play after being the final cut for the Ottawa Senators at training camp. Now, what do you think his psyche is right now? Because he's leading this team in points with 10 in 11 games, 9 assists in that total. But he was the last cut at camp only to be passed over for Nicholas Matin-Palo, Jacob Bernard-Docker, Tyler Clevin, all getting call-ups on the back end, and now Jacob Larson, albeit the Swedish connection. DJ, though, saying that it was easy to make the call-up on top of just the fact that he was coming back to his native home country because he was playing the best in Belleville. So if you're Gannett, how are you feeling right now?
I don't know, Ross. I feel like he's only in his third year in the AHL, and for me, Ross, I think it's more beneficial to Gannett's development to have him playing top minutes in Belleville rather than be a 7th or bottom pair defenseman in the NHL. So maybe you're a little disappointed that your paychecks aren't getting the bump that you would hope. That's definitely a factor of it, especially as a 22-year-old. That makes a huge difference for sure. But I think he's in a great spot right now, and there's no need for him to panic and be like, oh, man, I'm not the one getting the shot. What's going on here? Do I call my agent or anything? I don't think any of that is kind of happening, Ross.
lot of talk about Yuri Smejkal as well, the other final cut
Yeah.
during training camp, and it's just been an underwhelming year. I mean, just looking at the numbers and maybe game to game, he's doing a little bit more, but 1 goal in 8 games, -10, a team worth -10 in 8 games. At some point, I think we might be reaching a boiling point with the Yuri Smejkal experiment. If he's not going to get an opportunity in Ottawa, and if he's not going to be productive in Belleville, I mean, like, how long are we going to let this stretch out? The whole year?
Yeah, Ross, I'd say it's even worse than underwhelming. Like I'd say this is going badly for Yuri Smejkal. I'm just trying to find I'd save the Belleville line. Yeah, it's not like he's not getting opportunities, Ross. Like Yuri Smejkal is the top left winger, and his line mates are Angus Crookshank and Igor Sokolov. Like they are putting him in spots to succeed. And I think, just possibly a disgruntled player that came over from a professional league in Europe and thought he was going to have a better opportunity playing in the NHL, especially, Ross, when you see all these injuries happening and he had a good preseason. He's probably sitting there being like, what am I doing down here when I should have at least been given an opportunity to go up to the NHL and show what I can do. So unless we can see kind of a change in attitude and him saying, all right, I'm going to make the most of it here, I think the struggles are going to continue.
Well, let's hope it gets turned around as early as tomorrow when the Belleville Senators take on the Laval Rocket. As we mentioned, it's an off day for the Sens. They will return to the practice ice tomorrow, Wednesday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern time. That's an afternoon practice overseas. And then they'll play Thursday at 2 p.m. against the Detroit Red Wings, Saturday at 11 a.m. against the Minnesota Wild. Coming up, we'll let you know if you're going to these games, which I'm almost shocked at how many Sens fans are making the trip overseas. We have a way that you can connect with the show and have your game recaps on Locked On Senators on YouTube. We'll save that for the end of the show because we also, coming up, we'll get into the Sens prospects that are outside the organization, including a prospect being traded to a team owned by Michael Andlauer. That's next. You're listening to Locked On Senators.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Mary J's. Guys, Mary J's is a locally owned cannabis dispensary in the Ottawa area. It started off with 3 best friends making a life-changing decision, and they were sleeping on air mattresses on the floor of the sales room just to make ends meet, and their hard work and dedication paid off. They now have 4 stores in the Ottawa area and a store in Cobourg. If you guys are looking for the stores in Ottawa, you can find them at Riverside South, Orleans, Greeley, and Russell. So they're spread out to meet your convenience, and it's the best place for newest products on the market, with many new additions being added to the menu every week. They always got something fresh going on. Whether you're a rookie or a grizzled vet, they got the products that you want. Mary J's also offers competitive pricing. They will price match any store in Ottawa, anywhere. That means you get a guaranteed best price around at Mary J's location. But they also have the best customer service around by having the friendliest bud tenders that are always ready to assist. One of the owners, Dashy, complete beauty, diehard Sens fan. His favorite number is 18, not for Tim Stützle, but for Marian Hossa. That's how long he's been a fan for. So go to one of the stores, say what up to Dashy, pick his brain about the Sens and all the newest, latest products at Mary J's. Check it out today, guys. Mary J's.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Jace Medical. We've spent a lot of time talking together, you and I, 916 episodes. We get fired up together after wins, and we vent after losses. I'm thankful for that connection. Today, I want to chat to be a little more personal. I just learned that you can get a 1-year supply on ED medications. You realize what that means? Bring on extended travel. Bring on the next natural disaster or supply chain issue. You're covered, my friend. You don't have to worry about whether or not you can refill your generics for Cialis, Viagra, or Revatio prescriptions. And all that's possible because of our friends at Jace Medical. So go online right now at jacemedical.com to receive your 12-month supply on your daily medication. Remember to use promo code LOCKEDON at checkout for a discount. A verified customer had this to say about Jace. He said, I'm thankful for this service. Supply chain issues caused him to cut pills in half. So don't worry about that. If you or someone you love would get peace of mind by having a year's supply of any daily medication, go to jacemedical.com to see if it's offered for you. Just remember to use promo code Locked On for a $20 off your purchase. All it takes to get a Jace case is to fill out a simple online form. Don't be caught unprepared. Go to jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Jace Medical. Use code Locked On to get a $20 discount on your order. All right, Pilsy. It's another non-game day here at Locked On Senators. They are going to come fast and furious in the second half as we await the floodgates to open. The Senators currently sitting with the fewest games played in the NHL.
Ross, I don't know much about Padel, the game that they're playing over in Sweden. What's the difference between Padel and pickleball? Is there a difference?
Maybe it's like Swedish pickleball?
I haven't played either. I'd be down though. I'm a big tennis guy, so I think I would really get into that. But we should try to do a survey of who Sens fans think is going to win that Padel tournament.
Padel has a surprisingly similar origin story to pickleball. But let us know in the comments. What's the difference between paddleball and pickleball? Well, I can tell you right now, actually, that paddle is on a way bigger court.
Ooh.
You use a flat, untextured face paddle, where you use a perforated paddle in pickleball.
Gotcha.
And the scoring in paddle is similar to tennis, while in pickleball, it's similar to ping pong.
Okay. So they're very similar then, just with kind of minor tweaks here. That's cool. Yeah, Ross, who do you think's winning this paddle tournament for the Sens?
You're not going to ask me which Sens prospect I'm most excited about? Holy smokes.
We'll get to that.
I'm going to go with one of the Swedes. I mean,
yeah.
I feel like that's got to be the answer. Claude Giroux thinks so as well. You know what? I'm going to go spin zone, though. I'm going to go with Daniel Alfredsson.
I was going to omit him, but yeah, if there's any, because doesn't he run a paddle league in Ottawa?
I think he's like a spokesman. He's trying to help the sport grow a bit. But you know me, if Alfie's an option, I'm going to pick him.
You know what? I'm going to go Eric Brandstrom. Eric Brandstrom, this guy needs a win. He needs a boost here coming back off that scary injury. Now he's in Sweden. He's going to be all ready to go. So I'm going Eric Brandstrom as the paddle winner.
Anytime point on Thursday, Eric Brandstrom as well?
I might drop a couple shekels on that on FanDuel. Yeah.
It would be his first point of the year. As Eric
Need it.
Still looking for it. The Sens leader in points is Tim Stützle with 17. Claude Giroux has 15. And then Brady Tkachuk, Jacob Chychrun, and Mathieu Joseph are all tied at 12 points through the first 13 games of this season. All right, Pilsy, ask me.
Ross, Brandon Pillar here, Locked On Senators podcast. I have a question. Who is the Senators prospect that you are most excited about?
Tyler Kleven. Dog. Obviously, I wish that there was a little bit of a longer transition for him into the NHL. I think that maybe another week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks in Belleville could have done him well. Had 2 assists in 4 games, was playing a ton of minutes, had the puck on his stick, was transitioning it. Now in the NHL, he simplified his game again. Almost too simple, but it'll come. I do have confidence in that. But right now, I do think he's playing to not make mistakes versus imposing his will. The most obvious example was after Auston Matthews got around Nicholas Matinpalo, Kleven had an opportunity to lower the boom on Auston Matthews. And we know he's not shy to do that in years past. But I do think that we have to remember he's still 21, 22 years old, and he's going to get to a point where he is a feared defenseman in the league. And that is what the Senators are missing on the back end. So goalie-friendly show. We had to start the show with Levi Merriline and Matt Sogard, but if we're doing a top 10 list of Sens prospects right now, Tyler Kleven is at or near the top.
Yeah, I agree with you. Obviously, I wish we could have seen him lay out Auston Matthews there, but you got to check the game notes. That's Auston Matthews. If he goes for a big hit there, Matthews probably pulls the exact same toe drag move and makes him look a little silly on that play. So I don't blame him for going the conservative route on that. If that's like David Kampf or someone like that, sure, level him. But Auston Matthews might find his way out of that mess.
Ricochet shot, David Kampf. Eat that one, kid. At what point do you think we see him get sent back down, right? Because he's the 7th, if not the 8th defenseman right now with Jacob Larson up there. Those two we expect to be the extras on the back end with Brandstrom back. Hopefully, I mean, knock on wood that Artem Zub is good to go in the game on Thursday. He did not practice yesterday. Precaution day-to-day, call it what you want, but he and Tarasenko bumped into each other at the end of that game on Saturday against Calgary. But are you thinking that he goes back down to Belleville right when they come back from this trip?
Yeah, he's going back down ASAP, I think, Ross. Like JBD has earned extended look here, and once Zub comes back, hopefully soon, there's going to be a logjam there, and then I think we're going to see. We might see Ross. I don't know. It's DJ Smith, so who knows? But I don't think it would be the worst idea in the world to have Hamonic sit a game or two and have JBD be paired with Eric Brandstrom on that bottom pair.
Wouldn't bother
well,
me.
I guess we got to wait for Thomas Chabot to come back too. That's why I was racking my brain where the missing piece was there. So maybe that won't happen for a while.
And that's probably what 2 to 4 weeks we're expecting. Great to see Shabby on the trip though as well. You don't want these guys, whether they're injured or not, to miss out on that. Okay, back to the prospect world, Pilsy.
Let's do it.
I'm going to cover this now. We'll go to break. We'll come back and we'll actually get into the question of who's lighting it up outside of the organization. Our guy, the Disher, doing his thing, and also a surprise teammate of his, Sens prospect, who is really impressing as a freshman defenseman. But Pilsy, will Tyler Boucher ever play another hockey game?
Who knows? That's not a joke or an expression. Literally, if anyone knows the answer to that question, please let us know, because we talked about mythical creatures, Ross. I mean, unfortunately, usually we put that term on players overseas that are playing in leagues we don't get a lot of coverage from. But Tyler Boucher, like, great kid. He's been on the show multiple times. We're always rooting for him, but I don't think anyone has a clue what's going on with him. Certainly, I don't. It seems we've asked around, Ross. Nobody has an idea of where he is, what he's doing, when his timetable's back, why he's injured. I don't know. I got nothing.
I really hope it's soon, because the Ottawa Senators just released their prospect roundup of their own 4 minutes ago. So kind of great timing
nice.
For us. And it's just like they've got their AHL lineup. It says Tyler Boucher has yet to play this season due to injury. That's it. No other update is provided. You got to be healthy first. And you look, he's only played 4 games since the World Juniors last year, Pilsy. We're coming up on a full calendar year with no Tyler Boucher in the lineup. And in those 4 games with the Ottawa 67s last year, I mean, he was shooting the pill. He had in those games, he had 20 shots on goal in 4 games, a goal and an assist. But like, the best ability is availability. And until he comes back and plays, there's going to be a lot of questions on the last first-round pick that the Senators have made, to no fault of his own. I mean, he didn't trade away the picks in 22 and 23, but at a certain point, man, it's really starting to weigh on the prospect pool and the ceiling that this group can get to.
And just to end on a positive note about Boucher, I don't want to be all doom and gloom. He looked great in training camp.
Dev
camp. He was one of those guys that
him and Halliday,
the buzz was all about him and Stephen Halliday. Like, they're looking good out there. Like, his Tyler Boucher's shot was looking great. He looked confident out there. He was having fun with the guys. So it's really unfortunate, but all we can do is hope for the best for Tyler. Again, we don't know what's going on, so hopefully everything's all good with him and he's on the track to getting back on the ice here.
Well said. We'll keep you updated as that situation unfolds and as any information really comes out. More Sens prospect talk and how you listening to this in Sweden are able to interact with the show while you're watching the global series. That's all next. You're listening to Locked On Senators.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, the online sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network and North America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins for our customers down in the States. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. I love the app, guys. You always hear me talk about it. It's easy to use. There's so many different options. They've always got fun promos and boosts. You can check out the boosts to try to cash in on little inflated numbers. You can bet spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. FanDuel is the home of Pilsy's parlay of the day, and maybe Levy Locks. Not sure what's going on with the Levy Locks recently. Ross shaking his head. We're taking a break from the Levy Locks. Okay. But there's only one way to find it and one way to play. The best way is at FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and get in on the action. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
When I lose bets, which happens often, I go to Shawarma Palace to drown my feelings because Shawarma Palace always fills me. It's fulfilling, and they never skimp on the portion size. The platters are unreal. They've got the rice, they've got the salad, they've got the hummus, they've got the garlic sauce, they've got the pickled turnips, they've got the chicken, they've got everything you need, including the pita to wrap it all up yourself. If you like more of the sandwich, they'll do it for you. They'll get it right on the grill, just perfectly pressed at Shawarma Palace. It started with one location, and now it's up to 7 because you, the community of Ottawa, has dubbed Shawarma Palace the only place to go for shawarma in Ottawa. It certainly is. It's almost like, you know how you go to New York, you got to go to the Comedy Cellar, or you go to LA, you got to go see the Hollywood sign. You come to Ottawa, you got to go to Shawarma Palace. So head there today, eat like a royal, go eat at Shawarma Palace. All right, Pilsy. You like that at the end there, eh? You come to Ottawa to go to Shawarma Palace, and you come to Locked On Senators to get daily dose of Ottawa Senators content. On top of that, we also offer a bonus NHL ad-free podcast on our Patreon every single week. So go check that out. $5 a month gets you 4 extra podcasts and one-on-one interaction. You can go reach us there on our Patreon show. And if you want to reach us, if you're over in Sweden, we've set up a Dropbox. I'm going to put the link in the description of this episode on YouTube, and I'll put it on Twitter at Sens Central. If you are at the game on either Thursday and or Saturday, I want you to upload a video that you can record yourself just on your phone. You can record it 1 to 2 minutes and then upload it into the Dropbox. We're going to put all of them together and make a great video for Sens fans by Sens fans. I'm really excited to see how that one turns out.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like Ross and I, we hummed and hawed about making it out to these Swedish games, but it's a big trip, so we weren't able to swing it this time. Probably next time around, Ross, we'll make sure we go for sure. But we are planning some away games this season. Stay tuned to hear about that, Sens fans. But we want to see what everyone's doing over in Sweden. And there's a lot more Sens fans out there than I think people really realized. I saw Ian Mendez put the bat signal out, and Sens fans are meeting up together. So go check out Ian's Twitter on that for a meetup spot. Or do you have it here, Ross?
Scott Scarrow, who wrote this in, said they have a Sens fan pub takeover scheduled 6:00 p.m. in Stockholm at Wiström's Pub. So go check that out. Wiström's Pub. Yeah, great. We want to see all the interaction from everyone over in Sweden. Make us feel like we're there eating IKEA Swedish meatballs. No, all that to say, Pilsy, we've got some more Sens prospects to touch on. The disher, Stephen Halliday, how's he doing at Ohio State?
Well, the disher, he's been dishing, Ross. In 11 games, he's got 7 assists, 8 points. A little bit of a slow stretch here recently, but I mean, it's not just him that's suffering a slow stretch, Ross. It's the Ohio State Buckeyes as a whole. They've lost their last 4 straight games, and they've lost them in big margins, and Halliday only has 1 assist in that stretch. So hopefully he can turn things around here.
And he's tied for the team lead in points with Theo Wahlberg, Senators' 6th round pick from 2022, a defenseman, 6'5", 203 pounds, kind of a undercover draft pick out of Skellefteå in the J20 league out of Sweden, and was a point producer there, 23 points, 46 games. He can move the puck. Then he comes over and amalgamates himself into North America with the Dubuque Fighting Saints, the team that Stephen Halliday is the all-time points leader for. He has 22 points in 60 games there. Okay, tough playoffs. Comes into Ohio State. He's got 8 points in 11 games, 7 assists as well. So I'm going to be keeping my eye over the next little stretch here of Theo Wahlberg. I'm not saying that he's going to, he's not going to be a 40, 50 point guy at the next level, but it is worth noting that I'd say his stock is rising comparatively to some others. And I also want to touch on another player who's currently playing with Dubuque. It seems like a bit of a Sens pipeline now, and that's Kevin Riedler, who save percentage is .903. It's okay, but an 8-2-1 record. He's playing on a great team. So interesting to see how his development go. It's going to be a long road. 6'6", raw tools. But the good news is, as we discussed with the two goalies in Mads Søgaard and Levi Meriläinen, they're in no rush for Riedler to make the jump.
Yeah, and then you got Mando in that mix too, Ross. So definitely there's no rush for him to make that jump. I want to get to arguably the most exciting news in Sens prospect land, Ross, and I can't believe we haven't got here yet. A trade in the OHL, the Kitchener Sens traded away one of their Sens prospects to the Brantford Bulldogs, a team that Michael Andlauer still owns, and another layer on top of that, Ross. It seems like every time we talk about Tomas Hamara or Jorian Donovan, we pair them up against each other like similar guys. Well, wouldn't you know it? Hamara gets traded to the Bulldogs, and who's his defensive partner? Jorian Donovan. So that's awesome, especially for Sens fans getting to watch an Andlauer-owned team with two Sens prospects paired together as the top pair for the Bulldogs. So hopefully this helps out Hamara. Just a case of this Kitchener Rangers team is on fire in the OHL,
but shouldn't he be a part of it?
I would rather have him on a lesser team playing more minutes rather than be stuck, because he was only playing second power play unit. This is a guy you want him on your top unit, and they're bringing in more guys. They had a couple guys come back, like what's his name, Roman Schmidt. I think we covered him. Ross, big defenseman, came back from the AHL. So there's just too many defensemen there that he wasn't getting the opportunity he feel like he deserves. So I don't mind the move, and especially when he gets to play with Donovan, that's exciting. Yeah,
my only issue is I feel like he should be one of those guys who's kind of taking the bull by its horns and saying, okay, I'm going to lead and be a part of, I'm not right there. It's obviously a different situation, but I get the same vibe as when the London Knights traded away Ben Roger, and you're like, wait, shouldn't he be helping them be a good team? But then he gets traded for draft picks, and it's like, okay, I get that there's only 6 defensive spots, but I don't know. Let's see how it goes in Brantford, because I like that he's paired with Jorian Donovan. We'll certainly be able to have a good head-to-head comparison after that. And we know Hamara is going to be at his 3rd World Juniors. He's already got a silver medal at the World Juniors last year. Czechia making that great run to the finals until Dylan Genter scored the golden goal for Canada. However, there's not going to be much at the World Juniors this year outside of Tomas Hamara and Oscar Pettersson. Oscar Pettersson, by the way, just finished up an international competition where he had 3 points in 3 games. They had 3-0 win against Switzerland, a 9-1 win against Slovakia, and a 4-2 win over Finland in that international event. So Oscar Pettersson will be there. Tomas Hamara will be there. Do you think there's an outside chance that Jorian Donovan can sniff Team Canada this year?
I think there's a chance, Ross. I actually thought you were going to go in a different direction with that question. Is there a better chance that Philip Nordberg makes an appearance with Team Sweden?
No.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think Jorian Donovan does either. I think Donovan will be invited to the selection camp, but I have a hard time thinking, unless, obviously Kevin Korchinski. That's a name Sens fans might want to soon forget, the 7th overall pick that Ottawa traded for DeBrincat, but he's in the NHL right now, so that can open up a spot on the left side. I'm just curious, because obviously, and is Brant Clark still? I don't think Brant Clark's still. I think he's 20 years old now, so I think he's out. But there's obviously going to be a huge pool to choose from. So for a 5th round pick to get up in the mix there for Canada, I think it might be asking a lot.
Yeah. But Jordan Donovan's a good player. Sometimes you also got to consider, you don't want an international team with 6 number 1 defensemen, right? You need guys that can play a different style and a different role. And maybe Jorian Donovan, a guy that's a little more scrappy, a little grittier, he can find a way on a bottom pair. Hopefully.
Did we miss any Sens prospects that you wanted to touch on? And let us know in the comments as well if there's certain players that you either want to, have their case made that they should be considered an exciting prospect for the Ottawa Senators, or one that maybe we're too high on. Maybe you don't think that the two goalies, Mads and Levy, are going to be everyday NHLers. Actually, you know what? I'll ask you it like this, Pilsy.
Okay.
Zach Ostapchuk, the 2021 draft. There's been a lot made about Tyler Boucher not playing a whole lot, but Zach Ostapchuk was picked 37th in that draft. Where do you see his start of his pro career?
Look, Zach Ostapchuk has a lot of really great tools and a lot to build on here. He's a young player playing in his first year in the AHL. I think we're going to see him have a big second half. That's what I think is going to happen here, especially with guys like Highmore, Yarventi out. I think we're going to see him build up steam. And Ostapchuk had a really nice shorthanded goal, so he's a guy that can kill penalties as well. So just wait, Ross. I think he's going to heat up moving forward here. And as far as one more prospect I want to talk about, Jabril Toure. He's back in Sudbury, and he actually fought up against Arbor Jackey's younger brother, and kind of a weird fight that just ends up in a little takedown there. But Toure got the best of him, throwing a couple haymakers in before he got taken down. So that's a player, massive defenseman. Keep your eye on him, Sens fans, because as we mentioned before he got signed, this is someone that I think the Ottawa Senators are very interested in.
Any final thoughts on today's show?
Final thoughts for me are, let's get the Ottawa Senators playing again here. I mean, these long stretches are so brutal because we're stuck hanging on that 4-1 win for Calgary, and there's so much anticipation going into this Swedish trip. So I wish we could just zoom through this, Ross, and get to that game, because I'm excited about an afternoon game. It's kind of a weird time, 2 p.m. on a Thursday, but I'm excited to sit down and get to work early on a Thursday afternoon here.
I'm so ready.
I'm ready.
At least we don't have to wait until 7 p.m. on Thursday night. We get that at 2 p.m. We'll have the postcast for you right afterwards. Follow us on Twitter at Sens Central, LockedOn.Senators on Instagram, and head to the Dropbox if you're in Sweden. We will be heading to Sweden virtually on Thursday morning, 5 a.m. drop. We will have Matt from the Centennial podcast on to set the scene outside of Avicii Arena. Tomorrow, we're going to have another Sens Central citizen on the show. We'll also get back to Senators practice. We'll have lines for you. We'll discuss if Artem Zub's in the lineup. Lots of intrigue, and it's all leading up to another date with the Cat and the Detroit Red Wings on Thursday. A divisional matchup. Sens need to win these divisional games. So we'll get to all that and more. But for today, we say goodbye. Have a great one, Sens fans. For Brandon Pillar, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.